Gorillas are among the most endangered species in the world, mainly because their natural habitats in Africa are being destroyed by deforestation and urban expansion. In addition, these animals often fall victim to poaching and illegal trade, which further reduces their numbers. Because of these factors, there are many efforts being made to protect these amazing animals. One of these projects is led by Wilco, a man from the Netherlands, who realizes that without intervention, gorillas will have no chance of survival. There was great joy when the female gorilla, Angela, became pregnant. But at that moment, no one expected what would happen in the next few hours. Wilco noticed that Angela started to withdraw more than usual, even refusing to eat. He knew that this could be a sign that labor was near, and finally, she became restless, groaning and lying down. As Wilco expected, labor began. A dedicated team of keepers moved immediately, ready to intervene at any moment. Although the conservation center was suffering from a lack of resources due to insufficient funds, the staff never lacked dedication to their work. They worked extra hours, took night shifts, and volunteered to keep operations running. Due to the lack of mobile facilities, they had to set up a tent in a corner of Angela's enclosure. Some of the keepers even brought blankets from their homes and spread them on the ground to make Angela more comfortable without needing to be asked. Angela wandered around the warm corner, settled there, and prepared her body for the upcoming labor pains. Despite all their careful planning, they had overlooked an important detail that would soon cause chaos. Angela had already started preparing for childbirth, and with strong pushes, the little one finally came into the world. Although Angela was an experienced mother, this birth was different from the previous ones. She had to use all her strength and endurance. After an exceptionally long birth, and thanks to the support during labor, the moment finally arrived. As a result of Angela's efforts, a little gorilla was born, radiant with sparkling eyes and a wide-open mouth, taking her first breath of fresh air in the world. Angela held her baby in her arms, cradling him with love, and used her dark, hairy arms as a pillow. In a heartwarming moment, the baby's hand clung to her finger while she gently examined him from head to toe. Was she looking for any signs of weakness after feeling satisfied? Now it was the expert's turn. Angela patiently allowed the veterinarians to examine the baby. Angela knew the team was there to help her, as this wasn't her first birth. Fortunately, the baby was breathing normally and responded well to the examinations. Wilco praised everyone for their good work. Suddenly, Angela felt pain. Her body became restless, and her attention shifted away from the baby. Something serious was happening inside her. Wilco, who was observing from a distant viewing platform, suspected that it might be some kind of internal bleeding. Now it was clear that not performing an X-ray or an ultrasound had been a risky and possibly fatal mistake. Angela rolled on the ground as the veterinarians tried to give her their treatment. But every time they got close, the gorilla resisted, waving her hands to keep them away and lying down on the ground. Angela was determined to refuse any help. Anesthesia could put their health at risk, and surgery would have been just as risky. At that critical moment, Wilco realized what might be happening here. Over the radio, he gave instructions to the team to prepare for another possible birth. At first, some of them looked at him in surprise. He had been working at the zoo for more than 20 years, and they had never seen twins in a gorilla before. They didn't need much convincing. When they examined Angela closely, they saw for themselves what was happening. A glimmer of light grey and pink appeared on the horizon, approaching the outside world. Wilco was right. Twin births were very rare among people, and it was even less likely that both children would survive the birth without immediate danger. Angela began to bleed heavily, and she was exhausted. Angela started to experience pain more intense than ever before, groaning as she held her lower abdomen, struggling with the severe pain that swept through her body. And another long period of labor began, this time lasting more than half an hour. In the end, Angela was lying on the ground, gasping from exhaustion. A second nearly identical child was born, this time a girl. She was small and adorable, just like her slightly older brother, but her cute appearance hid a number of problems. The second baby was not as healthy as the first. She was coughing, having difficulty breathing, and showing signs of chronic dehydration. Any of these problems could pose a serious threat. It would be a miracle if she survived. Angela had no strength left to hold her baby. The team removed the baby from the pen and took her to the operating room a few moments later. As Angela sat trying to catch her breath, she looked fearfully in the direction where her baby had disappeared through the gate, among the people, exhausted and tired. Finally, she was sedated under the watchful eye of a veterinarian who stayed behind to monitor her. Her daughter was taken to the operating room, away from her mother. No one knew yet that this was a completely wrong decision, and it would have catastrophic consequences. First, the baby was connected to several tubes to ensure a continuous supply of water and nutrients, and then the treatment plan became less clear. It was not possible to continue with this situation for much longer. The team was almost completely silent. None of them were optimistic about the survival of this baby. Usually, if the child was unconscious or not breathing properly, they had to end his life mercifully. Wilco frantically tried to obtain an experimental drug he had heard about through several calls to a nearby research facility. This little girl might be the only chance of survival. If the project had more funding, this drug would also be available. The drug was developed specifically for this type of western lowland gorilla. Unfortunately, none of the nearby zoos had this drug in stock. The closest place it could be obtained from was more than 1,500 kilometers away in Spain. That was both good news and bad news at the same time. This meant that the drug could be shipped immediately, but even with express shipping, it wouldn't arrive for a few days. At best, the team was taking care of the little gorilla around the clock, but it was likely that this wouldn't be enough to keep her alive for long. Wilco assessed the entire situation. Angela probably wouldn't be able to have a baby at this age, and if this twin female didn't survive, the number of potential mothers for the future would decrease. The efforts to breeding depended on having enough females to bear young. Meanwhile, Angela woke up from her sleep and struggled to understand where she was, but as soon as she regained her composure, she immediately realized the loss of her baby. She also felt the pressure of time because she didn't know how long it had been since the doctors took the baby away from her. As the hours passed, she realized that something was wrong since there was no sign of anyone. She carried the Tadyu in one arm and ran to the edge of her barn while knocking on the fence with her free hand to get someone's attention. The veterinarian assigned to guard the barn disappeared through a hidden door. Fearing that the protective mother might become violent at any moment, the silence only increased her anger. The team observed the gorilla through the surveillance camera. For the crew, her behavior was a good sign, as it indicated she was alive and well. Meanwhile, the baby gorilla's pulse slowed and her breathing quickened. Most of the staff had already lost hope, but Wilco had an unusual idea. When he first suggested it, it was quickly rejected by his colleagues. However, as desperation grew, it was decided to try the idea. Wilco wanted to give Angela a chance to hold her baby, hoping that this would stimulate some kind of deep maternal bond. Still dressed in white, he carried the baby to Angela's pen. Angela immediately showed interest, lifting her head. Overcoming her emotions, Angela ran toward Wilco. There was a brief moment when the team wasn't sure if she would be aggressive or not, but those fears quickly disappeared. When Angela gently took her second twin from Wilco's arms, the two exchanged a long, meaningful look filled with understanding. However, when the female gorilla turned around, she let out a strong roar, but she had no intention of giving up. She gently rocked the baby and cradled it from side to side. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Feeling the warm embrace of his mother, the baby gorilla slowly began to stretch out his limbs, a movement he hadn't made since birth. Wilco was only a few meters away, and he could hardly believe his eyes. He expected that he would soon have to retrieve the lifeless body from the enclosure. But as the baby curled up on Angela's chest, while she held the twins tightly, the baby's condition began to improve. Suddenly, Wilco approached the two of them and gently placed the stethoscope on the baby's chest. He could hear the baby's heartbeat, gaining speed once again. For a moment, Wilco could hardly believe that his unconventional method actually seemed to be working from the observation platform above. Wilco smiled broadly at his colleagues and gave them a thumbs up. At least at that moment, things seemed promising. Some additional tests confirmed that the child's health was indeed improving. The much-needed medicine arrived the next day. Wilco went to meet the van in the parking lot early in the morning, quickly signed for it, and returned to the zoo. Wilco entered the barn again. Thanks to the close relationship he had formed with Angela, she trusted him more than anyone else. After administering the medication, it only took a few hours for it to start working. The child's life was saved.